Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Move over till you find source. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanashari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pada Project Acharya Asatara Sata Śrī Maitreya ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Divine Grace AC Bhakti-vitāna Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishna Om Vishnu Pad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gira Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajamohan Nam Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Lal Chal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Shamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Most beautiful Lord Shri Sukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai Shri Sukmini Dwarkanath Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Glory Srila Prabhupada. Minimize this window. Hare Krishna. It's actually not rocket science. As many of you as possible should learn how to operate the system so we don't run into these problems when certain persons are not here. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva rotamam deving sarsatim yasam tato jayam hadirayat. Before citing the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naiski. Are we on the right verse there? Let's see. Yesterday was 29, so it should be 30. Yesterday was 30? Okay. So 31? Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Urmila did 30. So 31. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So continue reading from the third canto of the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, chapter 25. Today's text is 31. Maitreya uvāca viditvārthaṁ kapilo. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do this one myself because it doesn't have a purport, if I remember correctly. Yes, no purport. So I'll just recite this myself. We'll do 32 responsibly. Maitreya uvāca viditvārthaṁ kapilo mātur itthaṁ jāta-sneho yatra tanvābhijātaḥ tattvāmnāyaṁ pravadanti sāṅkhyaṁ provāca bhakti-vitāna-yogam. Translation. Śrī Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose, and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sāṅkhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of devotional service and mystic realization, as received by disciplic succession. Now we'll do 31 responsively. 32 responsively. Yeah. Now there's 6 lines, so you're going to have to kind of scroll down as we go. Śrī Bhagavan uvāca Devanam gunalinganam Anushavika karmanam Sattva evaika manaso Vrittik svabhaviki tuya Animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhir gariyasi. Śrī uvāca devanam gunalinganam anushavika karmanam sattva evaika manaso vritik svabhavikituya animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhir gariyasi. Śrī uvāca devanam gunalinganam anushavika karmanam sattva evaika manaso vritik svabhavikituya animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhir gariyasi. Please chant. Vaishnavis. Uvāca devanam gunalinganam anushavika karmanam sattva evaika manaso vritik svabhavikituya animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhir gariyasi. Śrī uvāca devanam gunalinganam anushavika karmanam sattva evaika manaso vritik svabhavikituya animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhir gariyasi. Okay, synonyms. Śrī uvāca, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Devanam, of the senses, or of the presiding deities of the senses. Gunalinganam, which detects sense objects. Anushavika, according to scripture. Karmanam, which work. Sattve, unto the mind or unto the Lord. Eva, only. Ekamanasaha, of a man of undivided mind. Pritihi, inclination. swabhaviki, natural, to, in fact, ya, which, animitta, without motive, bhagavati, to the personality of Godhead, bhakti, devotional service, siddhehe, then salvation, kariyasi, better. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse: Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better even than salvation. Please repeat. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead, without any motive, that is far better even than salvation. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The senses of the living entity are always engaged in some occupation, either in activities prescribed in the injunctions of the Vedas or in material activities. The natural inclination of the senses is to work for something, and the mind is the center of the senses. The mind is actually the leader of the senses, therefore it is called sattva. Similarly, the leader of all the demigods who are engaged in the activities of this material world, the sun god, moon god, Indra, and others, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated in the Vedic literature that the demigods are different limbs of the universal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our senses are also controlled by different demigods. Our senses are representations of various demigods, and the mind is a representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses, led by the mind, act under the influence of the demigods. When the service is ultimately aimed at the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the senses are in their natural position. The Lord is called Hrishikesha, for he is actually the proprietor and ultimate master of the senses. The senses and the mind are naturally inclined to work, but when they are materially contaminated, they work for some material benefit or for the service of the demigods, although actually they are meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses are called Hrishika, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Hrishikesha. Indirectly, all the senses are naturally inclined to serve the Supreme Lord. That is called bhakti. Kapila Deva said that when the senses, without desire for material profit or other selfish motives, are engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in devotional service. That spirit of service is far better than siddhi, salvation. Bhakti, the inclination to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is in a transcendental position far better than mukti, or liberation. Thus, bhakti is a stage after liberation. Unless one is liberated, one cannot engage the senses in the service of the Lord. When the senses are engaged either in material activities of sense gratification or in the activities of the Vedic injunctions, there is some motive. But when the same senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, and there is no motive, that is called animitta, and is the natural inclination of the mind. The conclusion is that when the mind, without being deviated either by Vedic injunctions or by material activities, is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is far better than the most aspired for liberation from material entanglement. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-vitāna-yogam Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyahang Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishyavangscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragana Tanvatam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancho Kalpatarubhya Shah Kripa Sindhubi Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishyavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in today's purport, there's one phrase that Srila Prabhupada kept repeating over and over again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who have been around for a while or who have read Prabhupada's books extensively, you should know that initially the first editor of the Bhagavad Gita, who knows who edited the Bhagavad Gita first? Hayagriva. He came before Jayadvaita. Jayadvaita Das Brahmachari came later. Hayagriva at the time, Howard Wheeler, before he was initiated, he was actually walking on the street and met Prabhupada on the street. So he knew Prabhupada before there was an ISKCON. And when he told Prabhupada that he was an English professor, Prabhupada said, "Oh, can you edit some books for me?" So the editing process was started by Prabhupada. Many times people insinuate that the devotees forced Prabhupada to edit his books. No, no, just the opposite. As soon as he found out that Howard Wheeler was an English professor, he said, "Oh, can you edit something for me?" And he gave him this huge stack of papers, manuscript to edit. Because Prabhupada knew. He was from India. English was not his first language. And he wanted his books to be polished in such a way that they would be eagerly accepted by English speakers. Not just regular English speakers, but highly educated English speakers. So he wanted the books to be edited. He wanted his Bhagavatam, his Bhagavad Gita to be edited to that standard. However, Hayagriva made an error, not just one, more than one, but in this particular regard. We know in Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere you see the phrase Sri Bhagavan Uvāca. So there had been many other English translations of the Bhagavad Gita. I myself, I was in New York at the time, and part of a cadre of friends that were educated, university educated, and we like to go to these esoteric bookstores and find out all these esoteric books to read. So there were, as Prabhupada himself said, that there were many translations of Bhagavad Gita in English before I gave my Bhagavad Gita as it is. So what was the necessity? The necessity was that you have to hear Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna. And the proof was that before Prabhupada presented his Bhagavad Gita as it is, there were no devotees of Krishna in the whole United States. But as soon as he published his version, immediately people started coming forward to become devotees. Anyway, the point was that Hayagriva looked at some other translations, and they translated it as the Blessed Lord said. So he did that. He copied that. He translated that phrase as the Blessed Lord said. And it was actually published like that in the first editions of the Bhagavad Gita, the purple edition especially. So devotees got used to that. And then one morning, Prabhupada was giving class from the Vyasa-san, and he just Shout it out. What is this blessed Lord said? Śrī Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead said. And then he explained many times after that also what the word Bhagavan means. Bhagavan, one who possesses opulences. And then he explained that verse from Parashara Muni. Aishvaryasya, samagrasya, viryasya, yashashakriya. Jnana, vairagayosaiva, shanam bhaga itingana. So he cited that verse to prove that the phrase Śrī Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of God had said. Because the Supreme Person is one who possesses all opulences, not only in full, but unlimitedly. So Aishvarya means wealth. Every one of us has some degree of wealth, a few dollars or a few $1,000s or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or many people around the world are valued at billions of dollars. But no one can say that all the wealth belongs to them, except for Krishna. So Aishvaryasya, Samagrasya, Virya. Virya means strength. Now, the idea behind all these 6 opulences is that they're all attractive. Every one of them attracts attention. So if you have wealth, you may not be very strong, but if you're wealthy, you will attract attention. So nobody on this planet can say that they are the strongest of all time, and no, except for Krishna. Krishna, just by his willing, is floating so many planets in the air. We have no idea how much this planet weighs. Inconceivable, just this one little planet. But we know from modern astronomy that this planet is just a tiny speck. It's just part of our solar system, which is part of the Milky Way universe, galaxy, like that. So it's insignificant. And all of that is in one universe, and there are innumerable universes, and the Lord is maintaining all of them and carrying all that weight. In the Mahabharata, you'll see the one pastime where Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, was approached in awe. Somebody, I forget who, some sage asked him, "How strong are you? You seem to be so strong." And Garuda said, "I'll try to explain." He said, if you took the entire universe with all its planets and mountains and rivers and oceans, and you hung it from one of my wings, I wouldn't even know it's there. That's how strong Garuda is. And Garuda is the carrier of the Lord, whose strength is immeasurable. So, Aishvaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yasha. Yasha means fame. Just like Krishna's mother, Yashoda. It's not Yasoda. She's not a kind of soda. It's Yashoda. So Yasho comes from Yasha, which means fame. And Da means to give. So Yashoda means she increases Krishna's fame. In relation with his mother, Yashoda, he becomes more famous. So, but he is ultimately the most famous. God, Krishna, is the most famous. Yashasha Shriya, and Shriya means beauty. Every one of us at least thinks we're very beautiful. We look in the mirror. Even the guys, you're looking in the mirror. And I've said this many times, but I remember when I was young, men very rarely ever looked in the mirror. Definitely not while they were driving. Women would, even while they're driving, they're looking in the mirror to see make sure the makeup is fine. Nowadays, you see guys, they stop at a stoplight, they're adjusting the mirror so they can. Everybody's concerned about their physical appearance. So we all think we're attractive physically in some way or the other, but nobody is as attractive as Krishna. He's the most attractive, visually attractive. So much so that we know the gopis, they cursed Lord Brahma for giving them eyelids that blink so they can't see Krishna even for a split second. Atati yad babat anikananam. Shruti yugayate mam tvam apashyatam. Kutila kutalam te pakshmashridrisham. Jada udiksitam. So they call Lord Brahma Jada, foolish. They say, Atati yad bhavan, when you go to the forest, speaking to Krishna, the gopis are revealing their hearts. Every day when you go to the forest, we don't get to see you. And for every moment that we don't see you, it's like a truti. It's like a truti, a pashyatam. We don't see you. We think it's like a yuga has passed. But when you come home, and we get to see those beautiful curling locks of hair in your head, this foolish creator has given us eyelids that blink, so we miss you for it. That's how beautiful Krishna is. I don't think there's any one of us here that can say that anybody's ever thought like that about us. That if they don't see us for a blink of a second, they'll go crazy. That's how beautiful Krishna is. So, Yasha Shakriya. Jnana, knowledge. Krishna is the most knowledgeable. Just stated here that the mind should be controlled by Vedic injunctions. So where are those Vedic injunctions coming from? Where does the Vedas come from? The Vedas come from the breathing of the Lord. And therefore they're called apaurushaya. They're not of this material world. It's not some material creation. Not like the British. They systematically inculcated the intelligent Indians. And they're still doing it today. Even though they've been proven wrong, they're still doing it. They make all these documentaries saying, these Vedas, they were written by some semi-intoxicated sages. They were drinking this soma rasa, which is a kind of intoxication. And then they had these, intoxicated visions, and they wrote down these stories like Mahabharata and stuff like that. No, it's not a fact. We don't accept it like that. Anyway, those of us coming in this line, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, every word is factual. There's no imagination there. No imagination. No mythology. It's factual. So all of that knowledge is coming from Krishna. Tene Brahma Hridaya Hadikavaye. He impregnated that knowledge into Brahma's heart. And from Lord Brahma we get Brahma Samhita. And very first verse of the 5th chapter, which is the only chapter we have existing. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karna Karnam. Just that one verse gives us a pretty complete picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Jnana and then Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment, renunciation. Although Krishna has everything, all beauty, all wealth, all fame, all knowledge, he's not attached. And the proof is Rasa Leela. That's one proof. Surrounded by the most beautiful women in creation. And when he felt they were getting a little proud, a little puffed up, as we would say, he disappeared. Now, we may not think that's such a big deal, but we have no idea. Bhishma Dev, in the end, actually at the Rajasuya, he was saying that Krishna is the best renunciant. He said, I am celebrated as being Dhridabrata, a firm vow of not getting married, not allowing any woman to attract me. But he said, if I were surrounded by all those beautiful girls that Krishna was surrounded by, I would have fallen down. So, this is what Sri Bhagavan means. So when we hear Sri Bhagavan uvāca, Prabhupada wanted to remind us, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just the Blessed Lord said. So in today's purport, Prabhupada has repeated that phrase unlimitedly, just to drive home the point. When we hear Kapila Dev speak in this, especially in this 25th chapter, so much knowledge here, we should take every word seriously. It's not optional, I believe or I don't believe. Every single word should be taken seriously. So here it's stated that out of compassion for his mother, he's going to give her all this knowledge, Sāṅkhya philosophy, but the real Sāṅkhya, not the false Sāṅkhya, which only counts and analyzes the material elements, which they're still doing up to today. Every day, practically, if you look at the news headlines, they discovered some stone somewhere or some bone somewhere. So our scientists in the Bhakti-vitāna Institute, they make fun of these guys. They're simply into stones and bones. That's it. They get excited. They found some stone somewhere in Turkey. Oh, that means that a little earlier than we thought, not 5,000 years, but maybe 8,000 years, there was a civilization there. And bones, no, we actually try to avoid bones. We don't eat anything with bones in it. We don't save the bones after people die. We burn the body. Only the gurus, the highly elevated souls, are interred, samadhi. Otherwise, we're not holding on to any bones. You burn the bones of the body. So, Lord Kapila Dev, everything he says we should take as coming from the Supreme Person. We should meditate on it. try to implement it. Urmila's class yesterday, very nice, was stressing two things: humility. So, how can we not be humble? Our situation is so precarious. We glorify the material, modern technology, but we see how quickly it can fail, like the lights are out on the altar. And the vast majority of us here can do nothing about it. We have to wait for a qualified electrician to come and fix the problem. But we can take advantage of it. Like last night, I was giving class to the devotees in Arcita Prabhu by the grace of modern technology. You have a Zoom meeting and you can... So we're not, Prabhupada used to say, we're not enemies of technology. We're not enemies of machines. What we say is use it in Christian service. You have a car, which means even if you live an hour away, you can come to the temple. But unfortunately, sometimes we even live in the same block and we don't come to the temple. So we should not misuse our opportunities. We have opportunity either directly, we're living in the block, we should come and see the deities at least several times a day, and sometimes a week can go by and somebody who lives right in the block, they don't come to the temple. So this is unfortunate. It's improper use of free will, the minute independence that Krishna has given us. Krishna has given every one of us minute independence. But we shouldn't misuse it. We should use it properly. The mind is the center of the senses, so you have to convince the mind first. If the mind is convinced that it's important to cross the street and come and see Rukmini Dwarkadish, then the other senses will follow. The legs will take you to the bathroom, you take a bath, you put on the clothes, and you come to the temple. So the mind is the main thing that has to be convinced. And how do we convince our mind? We have to allow it to be convinced by the Vedic injunctions, by the scriptures that are being presented, by the pure devotees of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada stressed that also, that coming to the temple is not optional, even for beginning at Mangalarti. One time one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, is there any reason, acceptable reason in other words, why we shouldn't come to Mangalarti? And Prabhupada said, yes, death. In other words, as long as you're alive and breathing, you should be eager to come and fall down in front of. And that's another thing. Some people come into the temple and they just Anjali Mudra. No, you have to pay obeisances. Krishna says that. Manmana bhava mat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. These four things. Become my devotee. Manmana, think of me. Bhava mat bhakto, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru. Offer obeisances. And we see all the great souls, they do that. They show that example. When Prabhupada was in his 80s, right here in New Dwarka, he would come for greeting and he would do full dandavats in front of each altar. So that's the example that we have. Recently I was in Australia. Mukunda Maharaj has to be 82. Now he's at least 10 years older than me. I'll be 72 in October. And he came to Mangalarti every morning and full dandavats. Not easy, because his body is, falling apart like all of our bodies will eventually. So it was difficult for him to get down and then get up. And if you go to Vrindavan, not just Vrindavan, almost any holy place in India, you see so many old people, especially, it seems a lot of women outlive men, not just in India, all over the world. Practically, we see women outlive men. So you see a lot of elderly widows, they come to the temples in Vrindavan, and they bow down completely. So there's no excuse for some young person, you come through the door and you just, Anjali Mudra, get down on the floor. That's part of surrender. Surrender your tendency to do things halfway. That's part of surrender. Well, yes, we agree that we should worship Krishna, but we want to do it under our terms. Halfway. We come when we want to, don't come when we don't want to. Just Anjali Mudra, we don't feel like bowing down. So this is unfortunate. But Krishna is so merciful that he will always give us another opportunity. But we should try to come to the stage, as Prabhupada said here, that bhakti is beyond mukti. If you're actually a devotee of the Lord, then liberation, as Bilva Mangala Thakur said, muktir mukutanjali. Mukti is waiting to serve you. You don't have to worry about liberation. Liberation is waiting to serve you. So all right, I'll stop here because we should say a few words about Sita Devi. I just wanted to read something from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyway, okay, let's find this entry. Okay, so in the Adi Lila, chapter 13, which is the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, there's a short reference to Sita Devi. This is text 111. One day, translation, one day shortly after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Acharya's wife, Sita Devi, who is worshipable by the whole world, took her husband's permission and went to see that topmost child with all kinds of gifts and presentations. Purport. It appears that Advaita Acharya had two different houses, one at Shantipur and one at Navadvip. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Acharya was residing not at his Navadvip house, but at his Shantipur house. How many have been to Shantipur? During the Gopurnima festival, they have a distribution of prasadam at Shantipur. Very nice. So, therefore, as formerly explained, text 99, from Advaita's old paternal house, Nijalaya, in Shantipur, Sita came to Navadvip to present gifts to the newborn child, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then let's read one more. Text 112. She brought different kinds of golden ornaments, including armlets, necklaces, anklets, and bangles for the hands. So she was in the Vatsalya mood, the mood of a parent of Lord Chaitanya. It is in the Gaur Ganodaya Dipika, it is said that she is Yogamaya. So she, in Krishna Lila, she instructs Nanda and Yashoda how to take care of child Krishna, and then again she comes in Chaitanya Lila and instructs Jagannath Mishra and Sati Mata how to take care of young Nimai. So there's more you can read about her online. Today is her appearance day. We should take shelter of her and beg her to help us develop proper vision, proper bhakti towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.